Welcome, everybody, to the Comic Sens podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Lamarca, and with me again after a long hiatus, Brett Chartrand. Brett, it's been ages.
Yeah, definitely. Since it's been a few weeks, months, maybe.
Yeah, we had had a business trip, and then illness going around the family, and then scheduling conflicts, and then
Yeah, just
internet
busy around
outage.
Christmas.
Yeah, hard to schedule it, but we haven't forgotten about you, the fans. We know you've been asking. I've had more than one person ask me when is the next podcast.
Two
So
people, more
yes,
than
I've
one. Two.
had exactly two people actually ask me when the next podcast is. So shout out to those folks. We're not quitting, even though the season's not looking good. We are not quitting on the pod, and we're not quitting on the Sens. But how's it going lately?
Pretty good. Pretty rainy out here in Vancouver. It's pretty. That's the cliche thing to say about Vancouver. I've had an up and down roller coaster as a Sens fan. It's getting pretty difficult to stay engaged, but I think with having this podcast, it's kind of making me stay engaged and informed on the team, and lots of news to go through this week
Yeah.
for sure.
I remember, Brett, when we were thinking about doing a podcast, you made the comment, wouldn't it be amazing if the year we started the podcast, the Sens won the cup? Well, Brett, we don't have to worry about that. In any case, I'm still enjoying it, and we get to catalog this amazing season together. But before we get into hockey, I wanted to bring something up with you because the entirety of Canada had their butt cheeks clenched the other week when in the baseball world, Shohei Ohtani flirted with signing with the Blue Jays. Now, I'm not a big baseball follower. I'm a casual observer. But obviously news like this makes me pay attention. For those who don't really know Shohei, can you just give like a quick rundown of who he is and what the current situation was?
Sure. So he is a generational talent. I feel like he's even better. He's more than a generational talent. He's like once a century talent. They're comparing him to Babe Ruth only because Babe Ruth pitched and hit early on his career, and that was like, in the 20s or whatever, when they were like drinking and smoking on the field, probably.
In the history of baseball, like how many players like pitched and hit?
I mean, all pitchers would hit. That was like, but they weren't good hitters. Like there was a few. There'd be like maybe 3 or 4 throughout the whole league in a season that were like good enough hitters that they could sneak a hit out of it, or like hit one home run a season. But yeah, for him to be like in the top 10 hitting and top 10 pitching is like incredible. It's never happened, probably never happen again. It's just like a world class athlete, probably the top athlete in the world in all sports right now.
Oh wow.
Also, like, seems like a nice guy, friendly face, really funny. He's always goofing around, doesn't seem to take it seriously. Japan won the World Baseball Classic this year. So he's just kind of like in the past 5 years, since he always had the buzz around him because he had a pretty decent career in Japan before. So when he came over to MLB, he had some injuries, but yeah, in the past few years, he's been the story of the MLB. And then, was on the Angels, who also had the other best player, which is Mike Trout. He was like, before Shohei came, he was like the best player in the league, one of the best ever, everyone says. So they thought that would be the team for him to go to. And he came, that was what he wanted, to go to the Angels to play with Mike Trout. And they never made the playoffs.
Oh, wow.
Whatever, 6-7 seasons he was there. And yeah, it was pretty much a disaster. So this was his free agent year. And then, yeah, that was all the buzz around it, was who is he going to sign with? He wants to go to a contender. And yeah, that's kind of like what led us to the past week or
Yeah,
so.
so
I
I
think.
started seeing headlines because I'd heard his name in passing. You'd mentioned him before, and I started seeing headlines that there's a chance that he would sign with Toronto, potentially to the point where it was down to the final two. Right? It was either going to be the Dodgers and Toronto,
Yeah,
potentially.
yeah,
Um, there at one point was a rumored plane that was going from Los Angeles to Toronto, where everyone in the nation was tracking. As it turns out, Shohei was not on said plane, but a lot of drama around all this, a lot of hype, and then in typical Canadian sports fashion or Toronto fashion, it's announced that he signed a 10-year deal with the Los Angeles Dodgers. So a
yeah.
little. I mean, I'll be very honest with you. I would have loved to have seen him sign with the Jays, but
Same with me.
anytime something horrible happens to the people of Toronto, I'm all about that too. So it was nice to see pain inflicted upon them as well in hearing the sad news that he had pulled the bait and switch and selected the Dodgers over the Jays. So bittersweet, I guess. But no, it would have been great to see him play for the Jays. I would have definitely watched a few games.
There's different theories out there of what was happening. Like if, some people don't think that Toronto was even close and it was going to be the Dodgers the whole time. And he was just using other teams as leverage to get more money, which that happens all the time. And
Yeah.
they were even rumors that it was his camp that leaked that he was on a plane. And then meanwhile, he's just like chilling with his dog in his living room and like seeing this all go down. And then, it probably made him $200 million because like the Dodgers are like, oh, what? He's on his way to Toronto, and then like we'll give you 200 million more, like whatever.
Yeah.
That's like kind of like the theories out there, but I don't know. I think Toronto probably could have afforded the same amount of money, and like there's like stipulations in the contract where he's only making $2 million a year, and the rest of it's deferred to the end of his career. When he retires, he's just going to make like 20 million a year for like, I don't know, 20 years or something. I don't know.
Yeah, like that to me was really crazy. So it sounds like the benefit of that is obviously for the team because they get to allocate money elsewhere.
Yeah.
2 million a year for an athlete, that's like a mediocre hockey player at best.
Yeah.
Like that's a really low amount. So I mean, like I feel like that's probably Shohei's like basic living as a famous person amount.
Yeah. And that's just his like playing like salary. Like he's going to make money with like endorsements.
Yeah,
like,
true.
He's in LA now. Like who knows? Maybe he'll be in. I mean, I guess he was in Anaheim before, which is close. But like, he's making money other places. I think that's why he could do it. It's because he's going to make more than 700 million in endorsements in his career for sure.
Yeah, I could not even imagine like McDavid signing his next contract for like 15 million a year, and he only takes 1 million or like 500 grand per year. Like that would absolutely never happen.
Ultra rich to do that. Like, not every team could do that sort of thing.
Yeah,
but I was gonna say, I think if let's just say that the Toronto thing was real, I think it just says a lot about him and about the city of Toronto, like how multicultural it is. Like, there's never a mention of the Yankees or, I think maybe the Cubs and the Giants in San Francisco were the other teams he was thinking of. But like, maybe they had a good pitch and he had good thoughts of Canada or playing in Toronto. So that's cool that he was at least thinking about it. But
yeah, I think that's a few takes that I've seen in the news. Like that's one of them is that this was a win at the end of the day for the Jays because they were up against the big dogs in terms of recruiting free agents. So that's a win. A couple other takes though that I'd be curious to hear what you think about it. One of them was particularly American sports writers saying that Ohtani signing for the Jays would be bad for baseball and that the Jays are like small time.
Yeah.
I don't know. That seems like pretty arrogant if you ask me, but what do you think?
I think that's stupid because Shohei's bigger than baseball. Like people are going to be tuning in. They're going to become baseball fans because, especially in Canada, it's like everyone in Canada cheers for the Jays, maybe like Vancouver fans cheer for Seattle more, but everyone loves the Jays in Canada, and then I'm sure fair weather fans in baseball that hate the Yankees or hate the Dodgers or hate the big teams, and they'll probably cheer for the Jays because yeah, he's bigger than baseball. Like I saw all those things, and like with everything, I'm sure it's just clickbait to get the the Rogers Sportsnet crowd clicking on their articles to like get mad online and stuff. It's like they're all just opinion pieces of those things because like they don't know anything. Like Shohei didn't say anything about Toronto specifically. Like he kind of did like, oh, thanks for all the teams that showed interest. Like he didn't say anything about Toronto or playing in
Yeah.
Canada. So it's like
Because that's the other thing I was going to bring up.
opinion.
Yeah, the question is like, will Shohei get booed the next time he plays in Toronto? And some people think maybe. I think at that point, you might be a little bit small time if you're going to boo a guy who literally owes you nothing. Like I think they should maybe abstain from the booing. I think that's just like, look, it didn't work out. You can still be happy for the guy. You don't need to boo him because he met with your team management and whatever, and it didn't work out. Like, let's not boo him, folks. I don't know.
I feel like there will be a subset of fans in the league in general that will boo him, like just because people, like fans of like the smaller market teams that are kind of probably jealous that they can't have a player like that, and they can't sign. They're probably more just mad at their actual owners and their team than Shohei. But I don't know. I think it's kind of normal in sports when the best player signs the big contract and goes to like whatever, New York or LA, that they're going to get booed probably. And I think they'll get over that eventually. Like he's not a villain type player like that. He's like the nicest guy. He's like just fun loving and like amazing for the sport. But yeah, I could see him getting booed around the league for a little bit anyways, just because like the number 700 million probably, and then like the 2 million a year, and not every team be able to do that. I think that probably puts a sour taste in people's mouths. Like, not me personally. I don't care. It's whatever.
Yeah.
The amount 700 million is like stupid to me. It doesn't mean anything.
It's meaningless at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. Give him $1 billion.
Well, speaking about booing, let's move on from the Ohtani cast and talk about some Sens news, some big Sens news. This is the news that people have been waiting for pretty much since the start of the season. DJ Smith has officially been fired by the Ottawa Senators organization. What's your immediate thoughts here? Was it time?
Oh yeah, it was time. And yeah, you said even from the beginning of the year, I think some fans were saying he should have been fired 2 years ago. Even like, I don't really say too much about that because the team wasn't ready to compete. But my immediate reaction is it should have happened long ago.
Yeah,
maybe in the off season, and we could talk about why that didn't happen in the off season. But it was time, and I'm really happy to get it done and just move on from now.
Yeah, I think if there was no change in ownership, if Melnyk was still around, he'd be fired. If Pierre was still around, he'd be fired. I think all those circumstances kind of made this a little bit more drawn out than it needed to be.
The ownership change happened quicker, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Like that dragged on for so long, so they couldn't do a reset before the season started. Like I think there's so many reasons as to why it took so long. I agree. His time. I have an incredible amount of respect for DJ. I think he gets shit on way more than he needs to. I think he's a great coach. By all accounts, he's an amazing person too. He just it wasn't working with him and the team anymore, and he couldn't do this job anymore. And I think, people seem to hold it against him. Like he's not going to fire himself, right? He's just going to keep doing what he's doing. And people seem to like hold it against him that he had not been fired yet. But I mean, it wasn't up to him. So I feel like I like the title of this article. I do believe for what DJ has done for the young core, he couldn't take them to the next level. But I think for what he did in their immediate upbringing, at least from like a character building point of view. If you listen to some of the stuff that Brady had to say about what DJ meant to him, it seems like he's left an amazing impression on these players. So a lot of respect for him. Like, one thing I got to say, when Pierre Dorian resigned from the organization, he just fucking disappeared into the Orleans cloud, and we never heard from him again. DJ Smith was on local radio this morning doing a candid interview, and it was great. It was like he was kind of like all cards on the table. Here's what I think. Here's, what our current issues were, and
maybe trying to get, kind of talk himself up for the next job too. Like,
I think he does that.
He was like ready. He was ready to coach again. Like,
Yeah, but I think he does that naturally. Like, I think he has a lot of skill. He has a lot of personal skills. He has a lot of talent. Maybe it's not a head coach. Maybe, like, again, he can't take these players to the next level, so he's missing something there. Maybe that's something he needs to develop while he's not a coach, and he needs to work on that a little bit if he wants to be a head coach again. So he's got a lot to work on, but I think he has a lot of talent, and whatever team can like harness that talent, I think they're going to get a lot out of it. So I think there's a lot to like about the guy. Again, on radio this morning, giving a great interview, being honest and stuff like that. Like, he didn't need to do that. He didn't owe that to anyone. And he had amazing things to say about the people who fired him and like the organization. He was, still believing that with this core of players, they will be taken to the next level with this ownership. Like, he had great things to say about the owners that fired him. Like, pretty amazing stuff, I think. Again, it was his time to go. He couldn't take them to the next stage. I'm glad that there's going to be a change. And I'm looking forward to what's next. But, all due respect to DJ, too bad it kind of dragged on and maybe hurt his career a little bit. I think that's unfortunate, but I'm happy that he was able to be the Sens coach and did what he did.
Yeah, so I don't know if the fans, or if you remember at the beginning of the year when you were talking about the ownership change and management change, how the Sens need to have like that cutthroat attitude, which I think that's not what I think that's what DJ was lacking. Like,
for sure.
He was good for the beginning of all the young guys' careers to like build them up and give them confidence and make them, comfortable around each other, and the good vibes for all those horrible years, like the COVID year. Like, I bet you if it was a different coach, that would have been just such a terrible year. Like, he just kept the team happy and, let the young guys kind of just do their thing. But I don't think DJ has that cutthroat attitude.
No,
what it takes to win in the NHL. And I don't know who does have that out there to take them to the next level, or if maybe some of the players don't even have that attitude. But I think that's what the players need now, is like they need more discipline and a little like more uncomfortability now.
Yeah, he did make one interesting point. He didn't really torch anyone on the way out, but he maybe torched Pierre a little bit on the way out, in saying that why he wasn't harder on the players in terms of like benching, scratching, all that sort of thing. He basically said they're like capped out, like they because of the injuries and because of the cap situation. Like, he couldn't afford to scratch players. He couldn't afford to like sit someone for the game or whatever, because it would impact the ice time of someone else. So like
game plan or his mindset to like think about that, probably, because it's like, I'm not even going to go that route.
Yeah, some people are going to call it an excuse, and sure, it might be an excuse, but like, he couldn't be as hard on some of these players because of the cap situation, and I can understand that. Like, I think people are starting to realize, like, as much as like Pierre did some good things and signed some good contracts, I think Pierre's kind of like done a lot of damage to the franchise and like created like a shitty situation, like Travis Hamonic and his contract. Look at stuff like that and think like, oh man, they're in a bit of a pickle right now with their current cap and all that stuff, and maybe some of the issues, personnel and otherwise, could have been a Dorian problem and maybe not a DJ Smith problem, but I don't know. In any case, he's gone, and we're off to a new era. Anything else on DJ before we?
I was just gonna say, like, I would have been okay with firing him like a couple of years ago, and I'm like, it has nothing to do with his like character, who he is, or whatever. Like, I feel like that stuff only came out really in the past year, like how great of a guy he was. Like, but I don't know. I just think the record speaks for itself. I think because like you can compare the Sens to like the Canadians who apparently are like not as far ahead in their rebuild as us, or like they don't have those like star players like we do, like first round picks and stuff, and like they're at least more fun to watch than the Sens. I'm not saying they're a better team, but like they're competing hard. Their coach is getting them to like compete better than they're supposed to, kind of thing, which I feel like the Sens never have done that. Yeah, so I just feel like the record, he had enough of a sample size to say that he's a loser. Like, we lost more than we won, and then it's like that's the fact that he's been a coach that long is kind of amazing to me. Like any other team would have fired him, even just for like him like not to be around a losing team. Like clearly this team is not winning with you. We're going to fire you so that you have a better chance at getting a job down the line, where it's like, maybe he would even have preferred to get fired 2 years ago. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because they wouldn't have looked that bad.
Yeah, for sure. Like at to a certain point, I think it started to damage his career, and that's probably why Steos decided that enough's enough here. But I think like what you pointed out, the fact that he does have this amazing character and good personal skills, like I think maybe he's just like an ideal assistant coach, and like he doesn't have what it takes to be a head coach, but he's sort of maybe the good cop to a coach's bad cop. And I think whatever team picks him up in that role, I think would be a wise decision. So looking forward to seeing where he ends up. Maybe he'll take some time off or whatever. It might take a while to find a new job, but we'll see. But I'm excited now that we can look for the next coach, and there seems to be a lot of great options available. But in the interim, the Sens are going vintage with Jacques Martin. Well, I have the wrong headline here, but he is now the interim coach with Daniel Alfredsson as assistant coach behind the bench. So, yeah, for those Zoomers out there who don't recognize this fellow, longtime coach of the Ottawa Senators in the pizza line days, so the Daniel Alfredsson, Danny Heatley, Spezza days. Like maybe not so much Heatley, I guess, but at least most of the early Daniel Alfredsson days. Yeah. Interesting. Welcome back to this guy. He's not a spring chicken. He's 71 years old. I don't know how much he actually wants to be a head coach. I think he's fine only being an interim coach. But pretty cool to see. We saw the first game yesterday with him behind the bench. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. It's like it didn't hit me right away because he's been like away from the team, and so much has changed with the Sens since he's left. But then just thinking about it before the game, I was actually kind of getting goosebumps of just like, like not like even anything about how the team will do with him, but just for nostalgia purposes of like just kind of being reminded of like the golden years of the Sens when he came in and turned the franchise around, and then Alfie being on the bench and just seeing them together, like, and then like you said, he's getting up there in age, and not sure how much he wants to be a coach, but like I think, and then Alfie stepping in as an assistant, I think that just shows how much they care about the organization, how much love they have for the Sens, and I think that's probably what it has to do with it. They're just like, we want this team in the city to have success, so they're willing to step in and try for the rest of the year at least.
I think it's a great fit for like the remainder of the year. I think one takeaway from watching the game yesterday is that like seeing Alfredsson and Jacques Martin on the bench, they looked intimidating. Like I feel like the young players, like if Alfredsson's telling them to do something, like if Jacques Martin is telling them to do something, I think they have that level of authority that these players are going to start to change the way they play and do different things. So I think like this is a really great move. I think uh, Martin has enough enough tricks up his sleeve that he could teach some of these kids the proper techniques of doing things. He's been it's been said that he's about the finer details of hockey. So if
Yeah.
he could teach some of these players the finer details, then
Yeah.
next year when they'll likely have a different coach,
Yeah.
they'll have some skills that they took away out of this year that they can bring into that next coach. So I think it's pretty cool. It's exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. I mean, hopefully it leads to better defense and teaching some of our forwards how to play defense. I think would be great. So
Yeah. Yeah.
looking
Because
forward to see how that pans out.
I think we were like pretty spoiled with the Sens in those years, but like that's kind of what the Sens were good at. They had their like, like Hossa, Alfredson, Havlat, they're like snipers, so to speak, but they were taught how to play defense, and then that changed their career. And then, then their goalies would always be near the top for like save percentage and like goals against, and then goals for too. So it was like, he taught defense, but I don't think he necessarily like stifled people's offense or whatever, like
Yeah.
it wasn't like, oh, defense first, and then, everyone, you can't go and be a skilled player out there. I don't think he's that type of coach. I think he's like, he teaches skilled players how to also play defense. Like, but
Yeah.
I think it'll be great for the team, even if it's just the rest of the year. Like, I think that'll be invaluable to have like such an experienced, like legendary coach in my eyes, like just be there to teach them how to play. Like that'll hopefully change their careers, like for the better, like going forward. I think, like it's not every year that a team gets like an old coach to come in just for half the year to
Yeah.
give his expertise kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think looking into next year, this gives Steos time to, well, first find a GM, hopefully. And then also, there's like a really good crop of coaches available right now. So I think it gives them the opportunity to wait until next year and pick the best option. Like I think like there's like at least 3 or 4 names that are like amazing head coaches that are available right now. So the Sens should be able to come away with like one very
Which
good
ones
coach.
do you think were? I know some of the names too, but I'm not. I'm not too sure about some of them. But like, what do you think?
So
some of the names, anyways.
There's Craig Berube, who is just fired from St. Louis, Stanley Cup winning coach, fairly highly regarded. I think that's a good option. You obviously have your ties to the Kachuk family, who are close to St. Louis. You have the Edmonton guy, what's his name, who got fired? Jay Woodcroft, who got fired.
Yeah.
Way too soon, sooner than he probably should have because of the circumstances there. He's like their winningest coach of all time. And pretty decidedly was not like the problem there.
Yeah.
And then there's the Marlies coach who has ties, I believe, to Andlauer Gruden. John Gruden. Yeah. So he is sort of like the wild card.
If you're the Sens, didn't he? Like,
yeah, I think like like back in the day. So like he's sort of like the option if they're looking for someone who hasn't done NHL coaching yet. I think he's like the highest touted coach who's not coaching in the NHL right now. So those are like, and then there's
good options.
Claude Julien, who may or may not want to coach. I know he's had some health issues of late.
Gerard Gallant is another one.
Didn't, correct me if I'm wrong, did Gerard Gallant have some like, did he get canceled recently for something? Or am I thinking of someone else?
I would be surprised.
A lot of people getting canceled these days, so I don't know. I can't keep track of it, but yeah, maybe him. But yeah, a lot of options available. Patrick Waugh, which I don't think would be a great choice. I mean, he's obviously has ties to Andlauer, a bit of a sociopath, and like also similar style to DJ Smith. So I feel like they'd probably want to like move away from that style.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's a very successful junior coach. So like, you know what? He's had
Yeah.
success. And honestly, he was a successful NHL coach before he decided he didn't want to do it. So like he
Yeah.
just pieced out.
Yeah.
There you
Who
go.
knows what?
That's like 5 names that
Yeah.
are
That's yeah.
amazing options.
They're all like newly fired too. Like, or a couple of them are newly fired. So it's like sometimes when a coach gets fired, they come into a new team with like keeping some of the good stuff they were doing, but realizing some of their mistakes that got them fired. Like they'll come in maybe with like a fresh eyes on a
Yeah.
team and like, yeah. I was gonna say something about Jacques. Yeah, what did you think of the game yesterday, the first game? Any
Well, yeah, let's get into it. So since we last had a pod, the Sens have been 3-8, 3 wins, 8 losses. Matthew Joseph got injured, which is unfortunate. My mom's new favorite player, so sorry, mom, if you haven't been paying attention. Your boy's out, which is a big loss. Um, Last night like hurt because it was like one of those collapses that you could see coming. Like they did pretty well for 2 periods, but like weren't their best. It was
Corpusalo
just
was
like,
playing well.
yeah, Corpusalo was playing well, and then it was like that goal, the second goal from Arizona that like probably shouldn't have counted because of like the non
Oh
cross check
yeah.
boarding call, and then it went
Oh
in.
yeah.
And then like 30 seconds later, they scored again, and it's like, okay, this one's over. Like the Sens are
The winning goal, I
so
think, was the worst one. It couldn't have happened in a dumber way.
yeah, Travis Hamonic kicking it in his own net. Like at that point, I was just like, whatever. I was like, I knew they were losing, so like whatever, it doesn't matter. They've lost. Like it's just like the team is so fragile that you can see like all it took was one goal to start that third period collapse, and they just like fully collapsed. So it's a fragile team. I mean, like, yeah, you're not going to turn around a team in like one day. So like obviously there's time to get better and come back and improve under new coaching. It was just a tough one to watch, man. And it was probably because it was late as well. So I knew I was losing sleep to watch it and wasn't good. And yeah, it's not going to get any easier. Like they play Colorado tomorrow, who's a very good team. Penguins, who I feel like you got to win that one. Like they're not that great. You have a good opportunity there. The Penguins' power play is abysmal, and like penalty kill is what's destroying the Sens right now. So like there's an opportunity there, and then the Leafs, which I can't even watch those games anymore. Like it's just too stressful. So yeah. It's hopefully it turns around.
I think maybe what we'll see, in the next week or so, 2 weeks before the systems or the structure comes into play with Jacques and Alfie, I think we'll see like hopefully like better bounce back, or at least like not getting too down. Like,
yeah,
like hopefully that's what can change quicker. Like just, not necessarily in the game, but just after such an embarrassing loss like that.
because it seems to happen a lot.
And bounce back.
Yeah.
Because, like that's kind of what the season's been. It's not just like losses that have been happening. It's like we're winning early and then we lose and we can't come back. Like, we're either like going to blow out a team or like embarrassing loss. And then, we can't come back. Like once we're down, we can't ever come back. So it's like, that stuff needs to change. It's not even really necessarily structure. Like we just need to like, not get so down when we're losing, or like be able to bounce back easier, which I think hopefully his like experience, and then Alfie on the bench, his experience can help the young guys at least.
Yeah, and that is something that maybe coaching could have an immediate impact as well, just from like line management, right? Like I feel like DJ was not the best at line management, and sometimes you'd see like the fourth line out there when it was maybe not a great time for the fourth line to be out there. I think like immediate changes could be if the other team scores a goal and starts mounting a comeback. Okay, who are the best players to get out there who like have a bit more resilience than others to sort of fend off or generate some energy or whatever. So we'll see though.
Line combos, like just changing that up, just
to
see what else is there.
is Jacques Martin, is he a blender? Are we going to see the line blender coming out and blending up the lines mid game? I don't know. We'll
Well, I
see.
read an article today talking about old school Jacques Martin, and apparently, yeah, I guess I don't remember like the ins and outs like this, but I guess he didn't like put the lines top heavy. He would kind of separate the stars on like second and third line just to like have a balanced attack, which yeah, who knows? That could be a good thing to try.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so we'll see. I'm actually going to be going to the Devils Senators game. I want to take my wife to a game, so I got tickets for that one. So maybe we'll have
Ooh,
a wife cast after that if she wants to talk about her experience.
nice.
And then we're in January. In January, we're potentially getting Shane Pinto back. So and Shabbat
Yeah.
might be coming back.
And
Joseph,
I'll
I
be
don't know if
I'll be
they're.
going to the game on the January 2nd,
Oh,
Vancouver.
nice, solid.
Yep,
We'll
it's
have you
coming up close.
live reporting from the from Vancouver. That'll be a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
Um,
excited. Canucks are good, so I'm not expecting much, but it'll be nice to see the guys in person
yeah, for sure.
once a year.
So yeah, maybe things are looking up. We'll see. We'll see as people come back from injury and their gambling bans. We'll see if maybe the team will get together and put some wins. So
I know
yeah,
this is kind of just like trying to predict, and it's hard to say and speculate, but what do you think happens, or what kind of like, what's the next thing for the Sens to change if winning doesn't happen, or if it's like kind of par for the course? Like, what do you think will happen the rest of the year if Jacques and Alfie can't really like? I'm not talking about making playoffs because like I think even if they play better, I don't think that's very possible. But
yeah.
uh, like, what do you think is the next thing that could happen?
Well, they definitely have to make a trade to bring Pinto back, right? Unless Shabbat is
Yeah,
going to be on LTIR for the rest of the season, they're going to have to make a trade. So that is like pretty much a definite. Um, I again, not to blame it all on one guy, but when you look at what Pierre Dorian did in the offseason with like the Zach McEwen contract and the Hamonic contract, I would love to just see like if we were able to clear out some cap space, just like dump those players somehow, like just kick off the dead weight. Like Hamonic has been so bad.
even if
It's
it's like
like
seventh round pick or future considerations.
yeah, whatever we can do to just like dump some of these players, like they're just really bad.
Yeah,
But I
Hamannik
don't
is
know.
garbage.
I feel like there's going to be a trade at some point. Like there has to be a trade at some point, so that's definitely going to happen. It would be like a big shakeup if it's like one of the more core players. Like it'd be hard to see if it's like Batherson because like he's on such a great contract. Norris, like I don't know, like Norris has been actually playing pretty well. Actually, I think he's
Yeah,
been doing great.
he bounced back.
Whether or not the Sens would want to trade a player like that, I always find those moves scary because you get attached to some of these bigger name players, and like I don't know, I'd hate to see it happen, but
Yeah,
it could. Maybe you have to shake up the core. It's hard to say.
I don't think I see the core stuff not happening until the off season. Like
Yeah.
the new GM will come in, and then they have like if they keep Alfie and Jacques in the league in the team, kind of like advisor or whatever, like they could kind of help the new GM assess like who should stay or who should go,
Yeah.
like that kind of thing. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Stales wants to make trades like that, but I don't know. What if they go on like 7-game losing streak from now, and then it's like they
Well,
can't get a new coach? They like, I don't know what could happen. It's gonna be a rough
that's
year.
when, as a fan, you start Googling Macklin Celebrini highlights, who is the projected first overall pick. Maybe because the Sens got screwed so hard on the losing the draft pick and the gambling situation that Gary Bettman sees to reward them and give them first overall pick. That'd be nice. Hey, how about that, Gary?
Yeah, pull some strings there, Gary. We're
That'd
talking to you,
be
Gary.
that'd be pretty sweet though if Sens got Macklin Celebrini, who's like seems like he's going to be a legend. So
Oh, really?
yeah,
I've
right
never heard
now
of him.
the Sens are lottery pick and would be cool to get a generational talent like that. But
Yeah,
let's
I'm kind of torn on that too. Like, it'd be sweet to get top 3 pick, but in terms of just how fun it'll be to watch the rest of the year, it will not be fun. And
Yeah.
I think in the bigger picture, I don't know if there's fans that can last like another year, like coming into next year, like another year of like optimism with a first round pick and new coach, and that, like, I don't know how many fans can bounce back like that again.
I
Like,
mean, maybe, but you've seen in the last couple of years how fast the organization can turn around with like,
true.
stuff like that. I think it's as simple as when the team wins, the people come back. So like it is
Yeah.
what it is. They
And I
just need to
guess
get
we're
some wins.
still DJ was like, besides the players, DJ was kind of like the last of the Melnick years that was left, except for, I guess, Jack Capuano that they for some reason kept. No idea why.
Yeah, I don't know
Maybe
either. Maybe he's yeah, I don't know.
he's
I
the
don't think
D
his
coach,
time is
especially.
he's not going to have much time left on the Sens, doesn't look like, but yeah, they decided to keep him.
Yeah, so yeah, I guess it's a fresh start now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm someone who like I can watch the games and I enjoy like highlights. So like I like even if the Sens are playing shitty, I enjoy watching the Stutzel goals and Sanderson skating up the ice. Like I just enjoy watching that. So I'll get my enjoyment out of that, and hopefully all the enraged Sens fans on the Sens Reddit can take a breath and not get too.
What did you say? The fans on the Sens Reddit? You've been
The
reading comments?
the internet turns out to be pretty toxic and heated about this stuff. But hopefully, people can just kind of take a breath, realize that it's not the end of the world, and if they lose, they lose, and move on with their life, I guess. But
Yeah,
know.
don't make a podcast about it when they're in the middle of
Yeah,
just move on with your life. Watch baseball or something.
exactly. All right, let's move on. A couple more big headlines I want to get to before we call it on this week's podcast. As always, we need to do our Oiler watch. And Brett, the Oilers have been doing okay, maybe. Since we last talked, they went on a heater. I think they were like 8-1. And now they've started losing again. So like it's maybe they call it like that the new coach bump when you get a new coach and you win a bunch of games. Maybe that bump is over and they're starting to lose games again. But in any case, arguably, this is the best the Oilers have looked all season. So
yeah,
could make the playoffs.
This good run is kind of just kind of gone them back to playoff picture. I think it's as simple as if McDavid plays well, they win, and if he has a bad game or if there's like a defensive team that smothers him, they lose. Like,
yeah,
I think without McDavid playing as good as he can, I don't think the team is that good.
Yeah, and I think it was pretty clear, like he was definitely playing injured and he's not like injured anymore. So I think that makes just an incredible difference there.
Their goalie and defense isn't good enough, and besides Draisaitl and whoever, Hyman, I guess, is decent, but like without good goaltending and good defense, and then McDavid playing like crap, they suck. And then if McDavid lights out, they have a good chance of winning.
Yeah. I think for the first time this season, we're not immediately in the red here. Where's our demand to trade meter at with Connor McDavid?
You know what? I think you would think that I put it maybe near the yellow, but like I'm still gonna put it to the red. Not all the way red, maybe like just between the middle. Yeah, that's good.
All
Because
right.
I think it was such a depressing start of the year. And like I just said, without him playing well, that's a lot of pressure on a guy. If he has to play well, he can't have a bad game. Everyone has bad games. Like his team has a bad game every game except for him. So that's a lot of pressure. Like, I don't know if he wants that going forward. So I think no matter what, I think if they make the playoffs, anything can happen and he can play lights out in the playoffs. But if they don't make the playoffs, I think that's it for Connor. That's it. He's done.
But hey, we're trending in the right direction. So
Yeah, we're
uh,
slowly moving back up to the green.
the hardcore fans will remember that Edmonton was my Stanley Cup pick. So if we're shifting into that direction, there's still a chance. So we'll see
And
how
like
that
and like you
goes.
said, I think maybe they were a little too early with Woodcroft. Like you said, the new coach bump, but yeah, it was probably other things happening, goaltending, McDavid being injured. Like maybe if they just waited a week or two, they wouldn't have had to fire him. And then, yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
like that's just what ifs. You can't say that anything, but yeah, weird season for them.
And I had one more thing, one more note to discuss before we take off for the week. As always, when talking about how bad the Sens are, I like to talk about other teams that are playing awful because then it makes me feel better about myself.
Like who? Like who?
So we're going to talk a little bit about the Calgary Flames.
Oh yeah.
In particular, we're going to talk about one player, Monsieur Jonathan Huberdeau. So Huberdeau just signed in the offseason an 8-year contract worth $10.5 million per year. One of the biggest contracts in the NHL for their top center. Or no, he doesn't play center. Sorry, winger. Jonathan Huberdeau. Monster contract. And of course, he was obtained in the Matthew Tkachuk trade. So they got him and then signed him shortly after. He's not playing very well. I think it's been pretty clear. We've talked about him a bit on the show before that he's been playing poorly. Question for you. On the Calgary Flames roster, where does Jonathan Huberdeau rank in terms of scoring?
I just did see a stat of what he was on pace for in points, and I don't remember reading how many he had now. But the what he was on pace for was really bad. I think it was like 38 that he's on pace for. Which is like barely third line. Let's see. Is he I'll say 11th. He's outside of the top 10.
We're going to go through the list right now. So number 1, we got Nazem Kadri. Then we got Blake Coleman, Elias Lindholm, Igor Sharangovich, Mackenzie Weegar, Noah Hannafin, Rasmus Anderson, Connor Zary, Michael Backlund, Andrew Mangiapane, and coming in at number 11.
Oh, he nailed it.
Jonathan Huberdeau, who has 15 points in 32 games and is a team worst minus 14. He has by far the worst advanced stats on the team. This is like if you're a Flames fan, I can't imagine anything worse than this. Like your number one player that you just signed for 8 more years at $10.5 million.
Yeah.
Being your 11th best scoring player.
It's not like he's a young guy. I'm not saying he's like old, but it's not like he's a young guy and he's going through growing pains, like sophomore slump or something. Like,
yeah, he's 30, so he's going to be 38 by the time this contract is done. So effectively, his entire career.
That was probably a desperation signing. Like after trading Tkachuk, they've probably just to get fans excited about something. We've all seen that.
I mean, Nazem Kadri, I did say that he was their number one scorer. He only has 23 points in 32 games. Nazem Kadri is 33 right now, and he's locked up until he's 39 years old. So you have 2 players who are signed until they're geriatric.
You wonder why Tkachuk wanted to leave. You know, he probably saw this coming from a mile away.
Yeah, I mean, this makes me more than happy to be a Sens fan. Just looking at this, this is a big yikes. I don't even know how you get yourself out of this situation.
They're about to go through those years.
Yeah, the dark years
that the Sens had. Yeah. Well, you know what? I thought the Canucks were going to be going through that after last year. I thought that's what the Canucks were going to go through because they kind of hate their owner too. Fans, they hate the the Canucks owner. So I was like, oh yeah, they're probably gonna go through it, but they turned it around. I guess they had some young guys that
Yeah,
were
I
kind
mean,
of
that's the thing.
regressing a bit.
Like Vancouver is not under any albatross contracts like this. Like this is
Yeah,
astonishing how rough this looks on paper and in practice because they suck.
yeah.
So yeah, if
Second in the team in scoring is Blake Coleman. Like,
yeah,
I forgot he was on the team, to be honest.
yeah, let's yeah, if you're a Calgary player, the next thing that happens is you're getting in an Uber and you're talking shit about your organization and the tapes leak. Because those are the years that you have ahead of you. But it does not look good. So, put that into perspective, Sens fans. We still got a great roster, great core, some solid young talent, and we don't have.
And they're all on good enough contracts that if we do need to make a trade, that they're tradable players. So
Yeah.
that is also a good thing to think about too. Like,
yeah,
I'm not sure about like no trade clauses and stuff, but like, anyone would take, Shabbat at his contract or Stutzel at his contract or, Batherson or whatever. They're all making good money and worth their contracts. So.
Yeah, like our worst contract is probably Travis Hamonic, just because it's signed for this year and next year, and he has a no movement clause. And he sucks.
Yikes.
Travis Hamonic is 33, by the way. Like he plays like he's at least 38.
Yeah.
He does not look good, man. He looks so bad.
He's got rough minutes on him though, like blocking shots and walling around and kicking pucks into his own net. Like,
yeah,
that ages you.
Yeah, it's not looking good. But yeah, beyond that, everything else is movable. So hey, we're not Calgary. So
yeah,
that's a good spot to end on.
Yeah.
I
don't. No, go for it.
I was just gonna say anything else. Before we sign off for this week.
I'm looking forward to some more optimism with the Sens and the fans. I think, if at least just be excited that Jacques and Alfie are behind the bench. Like, yeah. I think that will be just fun to watch. Even as an outsider, I think fans will see that as just like a cool headline. That Alfie, ex-captain, Hall of Famer, and then Jacques Martin back like after 15 years or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I think that is a cool story in and of itself. So I feel like that'll just be a fun thing to watch for the rest of the year. Even if the team doesn't do that well, I think it'll be cool to hear their post-game interviews and see what they have to say about these players and see how the players respond to maybe a little more discipline and a little more adversity.
Yeah. I do tend to go on the internet and look at post-game comments from those amazing fans out there after games. I don't know why. It's probably because I hate myself. But I would say amazingly after last night's stinker, because it was a real stinker of a game, the fans were not as negative and vitriolic as they have always been. So like that kind of surprised me that people were not as like scathing, but made me happy that at least maybe for one game, at least people will not be completely toxic. And
it did seem that most of the vitriol was against Smith. So he was the bit of the scapegoat. So I think that did save, like, I know there's fans that like complain about everything, but like, I don't see like Stützle getting booed or Brady getting booed or any of the star players getting booed yet. But I think now that DJ's gone and everyone has so much respect for Alfie and Jacques and, kind of just expect them to do the right thing. So I feel like if the players don't start responding to it and continue playing the way they do, I think the fans will start to get on them a little more, which like I said, I think maybe that'll be a good thing. Like, bench Stützle, bench Batherson. I don't know, like just kind of shake it up a little bit just to kind of get them out of their comfort zone, just to like, play a little harder and have a little more adversity and then learn how to play, like bounce back from that too.
Yeah, for sure. And for us, we'll be back maybe with a fun one. Maybe we'll play a game or something over the holidays, depending on how the NHL games are going. But we'll be back in the next couple weeks.
And then stay tuned for a couple hopefully some reviews from the games that we both go to, or like some little fun things with that too.
Yeah,
I'm
some
excited
live
for that.
reaction. We might have. Are you going solo?
Yeah, probably solo. I'm gonna try and get people to go with, but yeah.
Nice,
See.
nice. Yeah, maybe we'll get my wife on for a wife cast of the game.
Yeah, that'd be great.
We'll see if she's interested.
I'll get my wife. Oh,
Ooh, no, it's okay, buddy. All right. We'll see everyone later. Thanks for watching. Thanks, fans. Thanks, internet. Thanks, Reddit.
Go Sens, go.
Bye.